Tonight, North Queenslanders brace for the second cyclone of the season as the south swelters through severe heat. Ron DeSantis pulls out of the presidential race, leaving a clearer path for Donald Trump to become the Republican nominee. School's back, but what's behind the soaring number of students opting to be homeschooled? And Australia's last singles hope, Alex de Minaur, out of the Australian Open. Good evening, Jessica Van Vonderen with ABC News. There'll be no let-up from Queensland's summer of severe weather this week, with tropical cyclone Kirrily expected to form in the Coral Sea tomorrow. The latest forecast has it crossing the Queensland coast somewhere between Innisfail and Airlie Beach on Thursday, possibly as a severe Category 3. Much of the state will feel its aftermath as a massive inland rain depression moves south, dumping huge falls. And tonight, the state's power grid is being severely tested as dangerously hot temperatures push demand to a record high.
In the far north, the recovery from December's cyclone and devastating flood grinds on. Out to sea, the next threat is brewing. Community volunteers say residents have already copped enough.
I'm a local. Water did go through my house and basically everything took a swim.
Tropical cyclone Kirrily is likely to form tomorrow.
The Bureau has warned that severe impact is likely.
It's expected to make landfall on Thursday before morphing into a rain depression, engulfing much of the state.
So we are expecting quite large areas of Queensland to experience rainfall and heavy rainfall from this event, even well after this tropical cyclone has crossed the coast.
In Townsville, emergency preparations are in full swing. The cyclone could cross between Innisfail and Airlie Beach.
We just have to wait and see where it ends up.
Everyone has a responsibility to plan and prepare for this event. So please have an emergency action plan ready.
Further down the coast, Mackay residents are stocking up.
I'm a bit worried, but my yard is fairly clean at the moment, so I'm pretty happy about that.
It could end up anywhere, but yeah, you still got to be prepared, that's for sure.
The Mayor is concerned about potentially dangerous flooding.
They're expecting somewhere between 800 mils to a metre of rain in the Clark Ranges and the ranges west of Mackay. That's what Tropical Cyclone Debbie did.
We're in discussions with the ADF about whether they would be able to assist if needed.
Days of oppressive heat and humidity have culminated in blistering temperatures across the state, pushing the power grid to the brink. Authorities say there's enough supply to keep the air conditioners going, but they're urging residents to turn off other appliances if they can. Egg production has taken a hit at this farm. The chooks are just too hot. On the edge of the Simpson Desert, Birdsville hit 44 degrees.
It feels like you're standing in front of an open oven door. And the sand is so hot, it feels like it's going to melt the rubber in my shoes.
It was a sweltering start to school for these 5 sets of twins at the Gold Coast. A cool change will soon bring an end to the heat wave.
It's very hot, isn't it?
Well, I'm kind of enjoying it.
As Queensland shifts from one extreme weather event to the next. Emma Pollard, ABC News, Brisbane.
Well, let's bring in Jenny Woodward now. And Jenny, it really was a scorcher today.
Oh, yes, Jess. Hello and welcome back. Hello, everyone. Conditions have been sweltering all around southern and central parts, but no records broken. In the southeast, it climbed to 36 in the capital with 39 in Ipswich, but Gatton was just shy of the forecast 40. Now, Ballera was the hottest in the state, hitting 44.8, while Birdsville was 0.1 of a degree cooler. Now, St George got to 44 this afternoon and we had 43 in Longreach. A welcome southeasterly change is moving up the coast, so a cooler day ahead in the southeast pocket, but there's no relief over the inland. Birdsville expecting 47 to 48 degrees later. Now we've got that other big weather system in the Coral Sea. It's slowly intensifying. The latest track map puts the low at 860 kilometres east-northeast of Townsville, and it's moving slowly. And the watch area now extends from Cairns all the way down to St Lawrence, although not including Cairns City. Now, while most of the computer models agree it's going to cross the coast on Thursday between Innisfail and Airlie Beach, there's still a lot of uncertainty about what happens then. One model is taking it inland towards Longreach, while another brings it south. But in any case, a big rain depression will impact significant parts of the state, so do keep up to date with the warnings. We can expect another track map at 11 p.m. tonight.
The Prime Minister is defending calling government MPs back to Canberra nearly 2 weeks before the parliamentary year begins, as the opposition questions the expense. The Labor caucus is meeting on Wednesday to discuss its cost of living plans. Anthony Albanese says if the government can put more money back in the pockets of low-income earners, it will.
The calm corridors of Canberra are about to become crowded.
Most Australians are back at work and have been for weeks. We're back at work and have been for weeks. And part of being back at work is meeting.
The Prime Minister's called his caucus back to the capital early to come up with ways to tackle the continual cost of living crisis. But it's the cost of Wednesday's meeting itself the opposition's questioning.
I don't think it's a very good look, Anthony Albanese, to bring your entire backbench to Canberra at great cost, line up of white cars at the airport to pick them up.
We don't have Parliament by Zoom.
The government is trying to strike a balance between helping Australians manage their soaring expenses while not adding to inflation.
If they make savings elsewhere in the budget, then they're on pretty safe economic ground.
Economists expect a range of measures could be on the table, everything from changes to the upcoming Stage 3 tax cuts to further energy bill rebates or rent assistance.
If we can find ways to put extra dollars in people's pockets, particularly those low and middle income earners who are doing it tough, then we're prepared to do so.
I'm not sure that households should be getting sort of overly excited.
The government's facing a by-election in the Melbourne seat of Dunkley and a public fed up with how much it's paying at the checkout. Anthony Albanese wants to do something about it and show he's doing something about it. Evelyn Manfield, ABC News, Canberra.
The federal government says a new deal with 2 major gas companies will further guarantee domestic supply and help reduce prices. Woodside and Esso have agreed to supply extra gas to the East Coast energy market to become exempt from the $12 a gigajoule price cap on producers. The federal opposition says the government should focus on building more gas plants instead. But the Energy Minister says there'll now be more pressure on gas producers not to inflate their prices.
There's very substantial penalties under the code for breaching of the code. These producers have undertaken to supply to the Australian domestic market, and that is necessary to keep the downward pressure on prices.
He was once billed as Donald Trump without the baggage, but his campaign has stumbled at the first hurdle. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has suspended his campaign for US president, saying he couldn't see a path to victory. It leaves just one woman standing in the former president's way and the general election against Joe Biden. Here's North America correspondent Carrington Clark in New Hampshire.
Once seen as a top contender, after an unconvincing result in Iowa, Ron DeSantis has been forced to pull the pin.
I can't ask our supporters to volunteer their time and donate their resources if we don't have a clear path to victory. Accordingly, I am today suspending my campaign.
This is an NBC News special report.
The announcement sending shockwaves through the political world.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis just announcing that he will drop out of the race.
Once viewed as the future of the Republican Party, his war on woke strategy wasn't able to pull voters away from Donald Trump. And despite months of ridicule,
10% for Ron DeSanctimonious and 7% for Bird Brain.
He tepidly endorsed his former competitor.
Trump is superior to the current incumbent, Joe Biden. That is clear.
It caps a remarkable fall in fortunes. Just a year ago, DeSantis led several head-to-head polls against Trump.
I think that was a very smart move. I like DeSantis, but he's not Donald Trump.
Trump will get those votes, and Nikki Haley's, she's done.
We just got some word that one of our opponents, very capable person, is dropping out of the race, Ron DeSantis. And Ron is dropping out, and in doing so, he endorsed us.
Even before this endorsement, Donald Trump was well ahead in the polls. But Nikki Haley is trying to convince voters she's a safer bet than her former boss.
Chaos follows him. You know I'm right. Chaos follows him. And we can't have a country in disarray and a world on fire and go through 4 more years of chaos. We won't survive it.
2 days from now, we're going to win New Hampshire, and then we're going to defeat crooked Joe Biden, and we are going to, in fact, make America great again.
There's effectively 2 competitors left in this Republican race, and in less than 2 days, New Hampshire chooses between them. Donald Trump is trying to see off his final competitor, while Nikki Haley is hoping for an upset to extend this battle. But even if she can buy some more time, Donald Trump is the overwhelming favourite to take on Joe Biden at the November general election. Carrington Clark, ABC News, Manchester, New Hampshire.
Almost 50 people have been buried by a landslide in southwestern China. An emergency response is underway in below-zero temperatures after an early morning landslide hit 2 villages in China's Yunnan province. More than 500 people have been evacuated. About 1,000 first responders have been sent to the area. Israel's Prime Minister has rejected a proposal from Hamas to end the war in Gaza and release hostages. Benjamin Netanyahu says Hamas is wanting to impose conditions, including the withdrawal of Israeli forces in Gaza and leaving it in power. Netanyahu is facing mounting pressure to secure the release of the 136 hostages still in captivity since October the 7th. The Health Ministry in Gaza says the Palestinian death toll from the war with Israel has now exceeded 25,000. A deadly blast at a market in the Russian-held city of Donetsk has killed at least 27 people. Russia has blamed Ukraine for bombing the busy shopping area, calling it barbaric. The Ukrainian president says Russia's military campaign has been relentless and strikes in Donetsk have been particularly severe.
Shattered storefronts and broken glass. Locals were on their morning shop at a crowded market in Donetsk when it was shelled. At least 27 people were killed.
A woman was walking. She was wearing a coat which was all riddled with holes.
Locals cover the dead in blankets.
She traded at the market right here, at the store, right here. Half her body was lying under the table. I pulled her out myself. She is gone.
Moscow has called it a barbaric act of terrorism by Ukraine and accused the West of complicity. But the Ukrainian president has hit back.
In this single day, the Russian Inhumans shelled over 100 cities, towns and Ukrainian villages in 9 regions. Particularly severe Russian strikes are in the Donetsk region. Unfortunately, there are wounded. There are casualties.
Donetsk was annexed illegally by Russia in 2022, months after Moscow launched its full-scale invasion. The Ukrainian military has been trying to win it back. Hours before the attack in Donetsk, a major gas export terminal near St. Petersburg was targeted by Ukrainian drones. Kyiv is trying to weaken Russian infrastructure, which is already under significant strain as the war grinds on through the winter. Elias Kluwer, ABC News.
Security is tight as Hindu supporters gather for the inauguration of a contentious new temple in northern India. It replaces a 16th century mosque which was destroyed by Hindu mobs 30 years ago, leading to riots and thousands of deaths. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says the new temple is a symbol of unity, but that's not a sentiment shared by the minority Muslim population. South Asia correspondent Avani Dias reports from Ayodhya.
A sea of saffron, the colour sacred in the Hindu religion, has taken over the town of Ayodhya as the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives to consecrate a grand new temple dedicated to the god Ram.
Modi built this temple for all of us. I want to congratulate everyone and ask them to come here to witness this.
Its construction has been contentious. The temple stands on the site of a 16th century mosque torn down by Hindu mobs in 1992. Nemaram Prajapati says he was part of the mob. He rode his bike barefoot for a month across the country to be here.
Modi will do the consecration ceremony. God will give him power and all our goodwill transfers to him.
Demolition of the Babri Masjid Mosque sparked nationwide riots between Hindus and Muslims. 2,000 people died, mostly minority Muslims. In 2019, India's highest court ruled the mosque demolition was illegal, but still granted the site to Hindus.
Now it's an occasion of Hindu unity and it's a spirit of nationalism.
But it's an open wound for many Muslims. Aziz Muhammad's father was killed by the mobs in the 90s. He told his family to stay home until the event is over.
It is like keeping hands on your heart. We cannot do anything else.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is opening this temple now because it's just a couple of weeks from when a national election is due to be called. And he wants to capitalise on this fever and excitement you can just feel in this town and use this to appeal to India's Hindu majority voters.
Cementing what many say is his plan to transform the country from a secular democracy into a Hindu nation. Avani Dias, ABC News, Ayodhya.
There are plenty of public health warnings about the dangers of vaping, but data shows the uptake among teenagers continues to rapidly rise. The government blames a thriving black market, but there are fears a nationwide crackdown will only make matters worse.
Many e-cigarettes contain poisonous.
Vaping is highly addictive. It's bad for your health.
More than 200 chemicals.
There's nothing sweet about vapes.
The message about vaping has been coming through loud and clear, but it's not hitting home with many young Australians.
So you go to the bathrooms at school and everyone's like vaping.
Yeah. You try it once and then you're kind of hooked.
Australian governments will spend more than $364 million in the next few years on programs to reduce vaping and smoking. They coincide with new restrictions, including an import ban on disposable single-use vapes.
We went from sort of less than 1% use in 14 to 17-year-olds in 2018 up to over 10% in the most recent figures.
Professor Emily Banks has been advising the government about vaping policy. She says teens interpret the widespread availability of vapes to mean they are safe.
So if we think about what we had to do to control tobacco smoking, it wasn't enough just to say smoking kills. We had to make smoking less available.
0.25? But outlawing the supply will also force the closure of vape shops, which are not allowed to sell any nicotine products, prompting fears an existing black market will grow.
You know, crime gangs will find a way to manufacture these products in Australia so they don't even have to come through the border. The problem's just going to continue to get worse.
The only people really who are advocating a model that would regulate and accept these as a way of Australian life are the people profiting from it right now.
Recent data shows the number of daily smokers has more than halved in the past 2 decades alone. The question is, how long will it take to make vapes as unavailable and unpopular? A significant public health problem for a new generation. Bethany Alderson, ABC News.
As the school year resumes, an unprecedented number of Queensland kids won't be returning to the classroom. Homeschool registrations have skyrocketed since the pandemic, with behavioural issues, bullying and class sizes pushing more families to ditch mainstream education.
No school desk, no worries. It's been 6 years since the Porter kids flipped their approach to learning.
They're like, what school do you go to? And I'm like, I'm homeschooled, and they're like, you're so lucky.
Their mum never planned to homeschool, but her son's behavioural struggles pushed her to give it a go.
The experience just worked out so well that we haven't looked back since.
Homeschooling surged during the pandemic and it's getting more popular.
Those kids felt that they just learned better at home and were more comfortable learning in their home space.
In Queensland, homeschool registrations have boomed, from less than 3,500 in 2019 to more than 10,000 students last year. And experts say the number of unregistered families makes it even higher.
They're disaffected about how schools are being run. A lot of them are unhappy with policies and procedures. Many of them are unhappy with the focus on standardised testing.
Bullying, disability, neurodiversity, school refusal and class sizes are also key factors.
We want to encourage as many young people to come to school as possible, to enjoy being at school, to enjoy interacting, to get the benefits of learning in a classroom.
A review of Queensland's Education Act is underway, which includes a potential crackdown on homeschool requirements to ensure children don't fall behind. But experts say more regulation could lead to a rise in illegally unregistered students. Homeschooling comes at a cost and the burden falls disproportionately on mothers.
It's like I've had to obviously sacrifice a career. However, I totally think it's worth it. Some children just need extra help and their parents are willing to do that for them.
Lily Nothling, ABC News, Townsville.
To finance now, and the local share market started the week with a gain following a new record high on Wall Street. Here's Alan Kohler.
Well, it was a solid 0.7% rise on the share market today, with banks and retailers leading the way. But it included a couple of nasty prangs. The technology business Appen dropped 40% after Google cancelled an $87 million contract because artificial intelligence can now do what Appen does. And lithium miner Liontown Resources fell 20% because banks pulled a planned $760 million loan, leaving the company scrambling to find someone else who might lend it some money at least. Now, here's why that happened. The lithium prices collapsed 85% in 18 months because demand for electric vehicles and other batteries is nowhere near the boom in supply. Every second mining company has discovered its inner lithium explorer, so it can be a part of the great energy transition. But profits are proving harder to find than lithium. And here's a graph of Appen's share price. Now, 4 years ago, it was a market darling, $42 a share, and it's now fallen 99.3%. Directors have been trying to sell the company, but no takers. And now artificial intelligence is described as an existential threat, and not just to humanity. In happier news, the US share market hit a record high on Friday, largely as a result of the artificial intelligence boom. And the Tokyo market hit a 33-year high, not far off the bubble top of 1990. The Australian market, however, is not at a record high, having fallen 1.5% so far this year, while the US market is up 1.5% thanks to AI. The Aussie dollar is steady tonight at just under 66 US cents, and not much happened on commodity markets. Gold, iron ore and copper up a bit, oil down 1%. And that's finance.
Coming up on 7:30, the National Rifle Association in the United States on trial for corruption.
This bundle of misdeeds really isn't about ideology or politics. It's about old-fashioned graft.
More than $10 million in improper private jet travel, for example.
Listen to me now.
It has brought the NRA to the brink of financial disaster.
Former Australian tennis players are backing Alex de Minaur to go deeper at a Grand Slam this year, despite him losing in the fourth round of the Australian Open again. De Minaur showed his trademark fight, but was ultimately overpowered by Russian Andrei Rublev in an exhausting 5-set match on Rod Laver Arena.
A heartbreaking embrace.
And I'm absolutely devastated because I saw it as a great opportunity and a match that I strongly believe I could have won.
A parochial home crowd still believed, even when de Minaur was down in the deciding set, as his opponent Rublev cramped.
Something's going on with his leg.
The Australian lamenting the chance to take advantage of the Russian's fatigue.
He just let go. He started swinging, and the ball went in.
And then I start to tell to myself, no, you're gonna die today, but you will do everything. And then somehow I start to play better and better.
It was de Minaur's third consecutive fourth-round finish at his home slam.
I think we're going to see the best of Alex on grass, to be honest.
Despite the loss, the Australian has plenty of support in his corner.
If it would have been in the US Open or Wimbledon, I think no question Alex would have won that match. It would have then put him in contention to win the slam.
Can he win a Grand Slam?
Oh, definitely. I'm not sure if it's in 2024, but I think he can.
I think that he has the game now. I think he has the belief, and I truly think that he has made tweaks to his game that we've all seen over the last month.
The dream run of Nuno Borges is over after the Portuguese world number 69 lost to Daniil Medvedev. Top seeds in the women's draw continue to fall.
The qualifier is into the quarterfinals.
World number 93 Diana Yastremska knocked two-time champion Victoria Azarenka out in straight sets.
Oh, this is desperately unlucky for Svitolina.
And Alina Svitolina lasted just 3 games before a back injury forced her to retire. The emotional exit of the 19th seed sent Czech teenager Linda Noskova to her first ever Grand Slam quarterfinal. Tom Maddox, ABC News, Melbourne Park.
Socceroos captain Matt Ryan says maintaining Australia's strong defensive record can win his side this year's Asian Cup. Australia has a clean sheet so far in the tournament after wins over Syria and India in Qatar, but have only scored 3 goals. The side's already booked a place in the round of 16 and can finish top of Group B with a victory over Uzbekistan tomorrow night. Ryan, who's recovering from surgery on a fractured cheekbone, says there's a similar feeling in camp as there was in 2015 when Australia won the trophy.
Goals win you games and clean sheets win you championships. If you go into a game in worst case scenario you keep a clean sheet, then the worst result you're going to have is a nil or draw. So I'm confident.
Australia has staged a comeback win in the Netball Nations Cup in London. Trailing England by 2 goals in the third term, the Diamonds fought back in the final quarter. Shooter Sophie Garbin scored 26 goals from 27 attempts. A near flawless attacking performance from Paige Hadley earned her Player of the Match in the 61-59 come-from-behind victory. Australia remains undefeated in the tournament and takes on Uganda next weekend. Weather now with Jenny Woodward. And Jenny, there's a severe storm in the southeast.
Yes, Jess, this little cell developed into a severe storm near Esk and it's moving north-northeast. There's the usual risk of heavy rain, damaging winds and large hail, so do take care if you are in the area. Overnight, some isolated big totals in the tropics. There's been around 100 millimetres near Cooktown and we saw 70 to 80 millimetres up in the Daintree. The heat wave has brought hot nights and days, with 20 the lowest this morning at Applethorpe and 45 the top in Ballera and Birdsville. Currently, it's 28 in the city after a very unpleasant 36 to 39 degrees this afternoon. Well, let's have a look at our photos. And Ruby braved the heat and enjoyed a picnic on the shores of Lake Samsonvale, while there was a rush on to get the grass cut before the storm arrived at Moogara this afternoon at Sue's place. It was a breezy day on the Gold Coast when David took a stroll on Nobby Beach, and David in Townsville was keeping an eye out for a crocodile he saw in the Ross River earlier in the week. Let's look at the satellite, and it's mainly clear skies over Queensland. We've just got that storm activity in the north and of course stretching out to the tropical low which is developing in the Coral Sea. Still quite a good circulation around the low pressure system over northern parts of Western Australia. A very hot day on the way for the centre, 41 the top in Alice Springs and Adelaide, warming up to 20 degrees in Hobart, and it'll be quite a hot one for the tennis players too, with 29 in Melbourne. Onto the chart, and the main focus, of course, the cyclone potential. It's brewing in the Coral Sea, and as you heard earlier, there is a high chance it will cross the coast later in the week, but there's still a lot of uncertainty about what happens next. The monsoon trough has weakened over the Cape, and in the south we've got this trough line which has retreated west, so just some isolated storms expected out there tomorrow. Now to forecasts, and there will be some showers and storms in the tropics, although mostly sunny on the north tropical coast and further south down to the central coast. Pretty hot though, 35 in Cairns and Townsville. No relief from the hot scorching temperatures over the interior, although there could be some afternoon storms west of a line from about Longreach to Charleville. 44 expected there and 44 in Windora. In the southeast, some clouds with showers possible in the coastal areas, but mostly fine over the inland, although we might see a couple of showers about the Granite Belt. In Brisbane, we can all look forward to a much cooler day, 29 the top, and just the chance of a shower or two. On the bay tomorrow, we'll have those cooler southeasterlies to 20 knots, and looking ahead, those temperatures hanging around the low 30s for the rest of the week, Jess, but torrential rain potential on the weekend.
What a summer we're having. Thank you, Jenny. That's ABC News to the moment. Good night.